Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris and Mark back on Monday night asking the same thing we ask every Monday night. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on, Mark. It's been quite enjoyable not to have the Premier League slap you around the face this weekend and bring you down. As boring as international football is, I'm quite enjoying that, mate. Be honest with you. What's going on with you?
Yeah, I've had a few days off from football, and apart from the England game, it's actually been nice just to focus on other things for once. Although I did pick up something on, I think it was on TNT Sports YouTube channel. And I'd just like to put out, and I missed this back in November, December, but if this comes up again, I will be leaving Evermore for the amount of time that I have put into the likes of Champ Manager Italia, Championship Manager and Football Italia. They seem to have taken on somebody of that ilk to be part of their backroom staff. So if that comes up again, I'm off. I'll see you later, man.
Oh, bloody hell. Seems to be a bit of that, isn't there? Isn't there a manager in France or something? Is it the one they keep getting fined for every week? Wasn't he a champ manager brainchild as well? Was he not the ginger lad? What's he called again?
Oh, God. Is it the guy? Is it Ren?
Yes.
They get fined because he hasn't got a pro license, but he's a coach. He's a proper football coach. He just doesn't have his badge, but I think he's got a lot of background. I mean, a lot of footballers do anyway. They spend an awful lot of time in their downtime playing stuff like that. So it's we've always got to remember who was it on the French lad? It was Griezmann, wasn't it? Playing as Newcastle.
Yes, it was the famous Newcastle thing when Mbappe said it was too cold. Well, according to Mbappe, Arsenal's too cold and Newcastle's too cold. I just think the UK is too cold for Mbappe. But anyway, screw him. We don't need him. We got Alexander Isak anyway. So moving on from you killing Mbappe, you did sweet FA at St James's Park anyway. But we've got loads to get stuck into, even though it's international football. There's been loads of stuff kicking off in the background. We've got clubs suing the Premier League. We've got all sorts of crazy statements from former players. And on top of that, we've got a few international mags as well. So just before we get stuck in, as we always say, if you haven't already, click subscribe. I'd love you to come and join us. We're so close to 7,000 subs now. We're so close, but we're within the last 100 to get there. So thank you so much to everybody who's smashed that button. We really appreciate that. Recommend us to family and friends. It's all free content, Evermore. But if you want to give back, there is a little bit at the bottom there. You can be a member, which you'll in for a little surprise in a minute if you remember. You can be a member. It helps me and Mark bring you this great content. And we are live tonight, as always. Jump in the comments. We've got a few in there already. We'll get stuck into the comments in a second. But there's only one place to start, really, Mark, and that is our international mag. So it's international break. All of the players have jetted off to Dubai for a warm weather break. But a lot of the players have been on international duty, and in particular, one super fast, brilliant winger who's so much better than Marcus Rashford. It's not even funny, mate. We're talking about Anthony Gordon. Made his debut for England. How good was AJ, mate? AJ even.
AJ?
Watching something else. You know who I mean, mate. I know. He was good as well, by the way, on the last one, mate. But anyway.
To be fair, yeah, let's give AJ a little bit of credit. I thought he was excellent in his fight, but yeah, that's a week removed. Look, AJ was great. I thought he did really, really well. I saw some ridiculous comments on our favourite platform X. That were saying, what did Anthony Gordon do? He created absolutely fuck all, apart from the couple of efforts that he managed to create for himself, because nobody was creating opportunities for them. And I thought he had a really solid game. He won his battles. He created those couple of efforts for himself. He ran with the ball well. He got into positions well. And as antagonizing says at the bottom there, his link-up play with Bellingham was exceptional. So he really shone on his first outing, because there was when you go back and you just think that injury that he could pick really could have scuppered the whole thing. But I just thought he was superb, and definitely the highlight really of that England side, because everybody else was not woeful, but I thought some of the performances were really, really poor. Couple of Chelsea players are thrown into that, because Chilwell was shocking. Although for some reason SofaScore decided to give him a 7.5, which I think was one of the highest in the England side. I don't know what game they were watching.
God knows, God knows. We've got a lovely gift there from Hyperbole. Hyperbole is gifted 5 Evermore memberships. Thank you so much, Hyperbole. Really appreciate that. And I did see a comment about me ranting. It's not a dog and car park. I do work on the road and trying to fit the rants in as I'm on the move. I'm trying to be proactive, you see. So yes, and hopefully, if any police assignment says do knock on the door, where he knocks on the door, they might just go, oh, there's that bloke from YouTube likes to rant every now and again. I'll say, yeah, that's me. How you doing, guys? Good to see you. But yeah, thank you so much for your generosity there. Hyperbole, we really appreciate it.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, really, really nice of you to do that. But yeah, I mean, going back to Gordon, obviously, it wasn't just Gordon who was on duty. As we know, he was playing against this beautiful Brazilian bastard as well, Bruno Guimaraes, who, to be fair, out of the two of them, I thought they were the best 2 players on the pitch, probably, Mark. We'll get into Bruno in a minute. He had an interview after the game with our very own Dan Wales as well, big friend of this channel. So buzzing for Dan, because that was amazing for Dan to get that as well. Dan's a lovely lad. If you guys have watched us for a long time, you'll know Dan. He's such a nice fella, and I'm really glad to see him, doing so well in his journalistic career. But talking about Anthony Gordon, I mean, that comment that said he'd done nothing, I think, come from a bit of Scouser, I think, who was outed on the toilet bowl at his ex. But Gordon had an 85% passing accuracy. I think he managed 4 out of his 5 dribbles, was successful. He won 8 out of the 17 duels. I think he put in 3 tackles as well. So he did do a bit of graft. He closed down very well, as we would expect from Anthony Gordon. And I don't think he looked out of place, Mark, at all. I think, a lot of people were saying, it's been a long time coming for Gordon and all this. But there was people who are there to knock Gordon and to doubt his ability as a footballer. But I think he showed there. He walked straight into that England team, started the game, looked totally unfazed, really calm. I thought he used the ball well, as you say, Mark. His pressing was massive. I mean, in terms of England going into those tournaments, pressing those teams with the ball is essential, to win it back and then give it to the likes of Bellingham and Foden, who for Foden standards was relatively quiet, I think, in the England game. Couple of nice little touches and stuff like that. But I think Gordon looks like he deserves to be in that England setup, and I think, the Man United players who came on didn't do particularly great. As you said, Mark, the Chelsea players were really poor. I think I showed up a 6-a-side piss and crossed better than Ben Chilwell did, I think, in that chance. I felt sorry for Ollie Watkins. I mean, Ollie Watkins was so starved for service. I thought Bob Geldof was going to try to whip some fucking money up to sort him out, to be honest with you. Poor bastard. And people are writing off his chances for the tournament now, which is a bit harsh because Ollie Watkins has been sensational this season, But yeah, I think, obviously they lost the game 1-0, largely in part to probably the likes of Bruno Guimaraes. I mean, Brazil aren't the force that it used to be, Mark, but just a little bit on Bruno because obviously he was playing as well. So Bruno had a 91 passing accuracy. You'd be surprised to hear 3 key passes. He got 3 of his 4 long balls on target. He won 9 of his 16 ground duels. He put in 4 tackles as well. And it's just the Bruno that we all know and love, isn't it? He's so comfortable on the ball. What worries me a little bit, there was a bit where I think he caught Bellingham, or Bellingham caught him, sorry, and they got up and had like a little nice exchange. And I thought, fuck off, Bellingham. Leave him alone. He doesn't want to go to Real Madrid. Stop it. Exactly. But how good was Bruno, mate, in that game?
Yeah, look, he was the pick, I think, of the Brazil players for me. It was funny watching it because I was screaming at it because, I mean, how Paqueta gets away with however many fouls he committed, and he really should have seen a second yellow card. There were just unbelievable numbers of late, not dangerous, but just late challenges, and he gives away 6 fouls. João Gomez as well, I think, had similar sort of number, and they're just constantly chipping away at Bellingham. I figured that was the only way of really stopping him, and that was frustrating. But I'd say Bruno was the pick. I think certainly of those 3, he just stood up and he wanted to use the ball. He wanted to be the kind of the dynamic in that midfield that really got Brazil on the move. The other 2 were being the horrible little bastards of the team, I think, is probably the best way to put it. The ones that were doing all the real dirty work. But Bruno just went about his game really, really well, and it's one of those for any side when you've got players playing against each other. The last thing you want is them to come up against each other and go a little bit toe to toe and end up getting bit stuck into each other and stuff like that because they want to come out the best. But there were a couple of moments where they were sort of together as the picture at the start show. But I thought they both conducted themselves really, really well. Belong on that field. They really do.
Absolutely. But Ian's already saying, wait till Anthony G gets Southgate and gets ruined. I really can't wait for Southgate to make Manchester United players worse than he already is. That is the best link I've seen in a long time. It really is. Absolutely superb. It really, really is. Comment from Ricky D, who I think, no, I thought you were a City fan there, Ricky, but you got Newcastle on your realm there. So Grealish is injured. He would become, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but it wasn't Grealish in the squad. I thought he was in the squad, Mark Grealish, wasn't he? Sure he was. Grealish was on the bench.
Grealish is crocked, isn't he? I'm
sure he crocked. I thought. No, I saw him warming up for the game when he was on. No. He was on the bench, was he not? Sure, he was. Was he not on the bench?
Not Jack. Jack's been crocked. He's he pulled up. Sure? Was it Copenhagen? I'm sure he was. Yeah, he's not there. He's
not on the bench.
No.
You sure?
Oh, you've been watching your Grealish videos again, haven't you?
It must have been a clip I saw on X or something of him warming up. I think it was. But yeah, so I mean, obviously it was good international break for Anthony Gordon and for Bruno Guimaraes. Maybe not so much for one of our other players in a second, but Charles Habsburg, second of Spain. What a name that is! I like that England played a high line. But you can't do that while with Maguire or Dunk. Tomori will need to play. I think Tomori's a great player, Charles. I think that's a great shout. I think he's criminally underused by Gareth Southgate. I mean, I think he was brilliant for AC Milan when we played them. His pace, in his positional sense, Mark. He's a player that I'd love at Newcastle, actually. I don't know if there's a chance to get him back to the Premier League. But, it'd be really interesting when Southgate does do one. All these players who have been kind of overlooked by him, I think... I wonder if they get that chance to shine again, because, I mean, Branthwaite was there and he looked quite decent, but I think it's a real shame for likes of Tomori, isn't it, getting overlooked by that?
It really is. I mean, Maguire showed up, didn't he, with that horrible back pass that he tried to play in. And was it Rodrigo he allowed in? He's just... Look, he's had better performances for Man U since his sort of rough time, but he's just not good enough. He's really not good enough to play in a game against the best in the world. He's not good enough. And the likes of Tomori, you're absolutely right, are criminally underused, not picked for squads, left on the bench to just sort of rot. And it's really telling when you continue to go back to players like Maguire and just continue to put them in the side. And I don't know what you're expecting of him. He's not the same player that played in 2018. He was immense in the World Cup then. He's not that player. So, Southgate has to move on from him quickly. The quicker Southgate's gone, the better for me. I know people have said that he's, look at what he's achieved. But you sort of look at this group of players again at times and just think, why have you not won? I still hate the fact that most of the time we play with a handbrake on. We're not allowed to express ourselves on the field. It's very, very... it's like playing chess rather than actual football, isn't it? Because it's just so planned out and stuff rather than being passionate, being aggressive, being, quick on the ball. So it's just so frustrating to watch at times. But yeah, Maguire has to go quickly for me out of that.
Yeah, side. Absolutely. Especially with those kind of players as well at your disposal. I mean, you're talking about, arguably two players that could be pushing for Ballon d'Or in the next few years in Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham. And if you don't use that squad correctly and appropriately, and Harry Kane's one of the best strikers in European football, and we got Rice there as well as a good defensive midfielder. I mean, even looking at other players as well, just before we got into a disastrous international break for our goalkeeper, which where I'm going with that. Even some of the young guns as well, obviously likes of Louis Miley. Louis Miley in a number 10 shirt, I think somebody put this on Twitter, or X as it is now, just looks right. Do you know what? I think Louis Louis and the what is it, the elite squad as it's called now, Mark, which is basically just the under-20s. Just call it under-20s. Him and Lewis Hall.
Baffled the shit out of me when I read that. You know, and I said, "What on earth?" I thought it was like some random like C squad. I didn't realize they'd renamed the under-21s to be the elite squad. What on earth, honestly?
I was expecting them to jump out of like a black van with like red tint or something like that on the side, you know, like that was how they were going to pull on the pitch, the elite England team. But to be fair, Louis Miley again, he looked calm and composed in that midfield. You know, Lewis Hall looked great at left back, and the word is apparently, from what I'm reading, is that Eddie's been really impressed with Lewis Hall when he come on against City. Obviously played really well in that England game. Some of the deliveries he's put in was left peg were brilliant, and apparently Eddie's really impressed with how he stepped up his defensive responsibilities. So he thinks he could, get a few more minutes and stuff like that, which to me is a no-brainer, especially with the injury to Botman. You could quite easily move Byrne inside. I know he's not great inside either, but he's better at centre half than he is at left back. And it's a good chance to play Share and Byrne as we had before Botman came in as a back two, and then put Lewis Hall in at left back against West Ham. But we'll get into that, I'm sure, nearer the time. But yeah, it's good to see a lot of the international mags having a good international break, but unfortunately, that can't be the case for all of them. So here is poor old Martin Dubravka, who was in goal for Slovakia when they played Austria. And Martin, unfortunately, has now got a record for the quickest international goal conceded, which was 6 seconds, I believe it was, Mark, right through the fucking middle of the team, like a knife through butter. We've said that before. It was scored by, excuse my pronunciation, Christoph, is it Baumgartner?
Baumgartner.
There you go. I knew you should have done that one instead of me. But he just went right through the middle of the fucking team. And is Martin Dubravka at fault there, mate, or has he been shafted by a shit defense?
I think he's been really, really let down by what happened in front of him. The lad picks the ball up from the kickoff, runs past through two players on the edge of the centre circle. Nobody then approaches him as he then runs 20 yards forward to get towards the edge of the box and then pings one in the bottom corner. It's the most unbelievable start to a game I've ever seen in my life. It's just phenomenal. But poor Dubravka, because he was standing there just going, "What the fuck are you doing?" Seriously, you kicked off and you're already on they're fast asleep. The whole outfield were just fast asleep watching it. Ridiculous, honestly. I feel really sorry for him. It's such a poor record to have on your sheet to go away. I can see the fastest ever international goal. I feel so sorry for him.
Yeah, that's your goalkeepers union in there, mate, isn't it? But to be fair, we have seen that goal this season already in Newcastle colours, so it does make you wonder a little bit: is possibly Dubravka the problem here? We have seen very similar goals conceded by Newcastle. That's a bit harsh to blame him, but yeah, it's not great. No, well, very true. Imagine we conceding 6 seconds. God, it'd be like the end of the world, wouldn't it? 6 seconds, my giddy aunt. It would be absolutely abysmal. It really, really would. But yeah, moving on to the next category then. Obviously, we had a few other international players. Cher, I think, played for Switzerland as well, even though he said he wasn't going to start. I think by the new manager, who's basically telling Cher he's getting on a bit, so he's not going to start. He did start. I think he did okay for Switzerland. Isaac played as well for Sweden, didn't get knackered, touch wood, thank the Lord. So that's good news. And hopefully we'll get through the next games as well, unscathed. And then we can maybe join up with the rest of the squad just before they come back for the Premier League to resume. But another topic here, Mark, as well. So obviously the lads team wasn't in action this weekend. So all eyes were really on the lasses, weren't they, in terms of the Newcastle United women's team that were in the final. It was at the FSWL Cup final against #United down in Kenilworth Road. There was loads of other channels that cover it way more than we do, and massive credit to them, especially big shout out to Newcastle Fans TV. They do an amazing job covering the Lasses team. I know Toon Review have just stepped up their game with it as well. Everyone was hoping that Lasses were going to win some silver and more, but it didn't quite work in the end. It just went down 2-1, which is a shame.
So close. Yeah, take the lead and then the goal that scored was a really, really bizarre own goal, and then the two goals that come. The first one, it's a good finish in the end from sort of halfway through the penalty spot. And there's just a bit of a mix-up, I think, for the second goal, and I think the goalkeeper leaves himself wide open for the cut back, and obviously the pass into pretty much an empty net at that point. But they put their hearts into it, because they did knock on the door an awful lot, and they came really close to really getting back into that game, and potentially then go on and to go on and win it. But really unlucky, really close. But they are on the march, aren't they? You know, they're miles clear in the league. You know, the amount that the club is now putting into that to that side and that squad, and long may that continue, because it's another area of growth for the club. It's another area that was ignored for an awful long time, and yeah, it's really good to see that they're doing so well.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think it's great as well for for women's football in general. You know, there's a lot of teams now, isn't there, in terms of girls teams, in schools coming through, and I think with Newcastle having a lot more of a positive attitude towards that type of thing as well, we're going to be able to scout some of the better players as well. In terms of from the schools and the clubs that are being generated now as well up and around the region. So I think it's only going to bode well in the future. It might not be your cup of tea, Joey Barton, but I think the girls have played at a really good standard. I think women's football is getting a lot better. It really, really is. I think the standard's getting a lot better. People are taking it a lot more seriously. And long may it continue, Mark. I think it's something that Amanda, in particular, has been a driving force, I think, behind since she's come into the club. It's something that she really wanted to put her stamp on, really. And I think she's done a fantastic job at it. After all the noise about who our owners were, and some of their viewpoints and stuff like that, it's something that Amanda Staveley's really made a point in doing, Mark, isn't it? In terms of her kind of mission statement for Newcastle United as a club overall, not just the men's team.
Yeah, I mean, she's excuse me, she's really passionate about it, isn't she?
Choking on your own ambition there, mate. Choking on your own ambition.
She said that from day one, that that was a huge thing for her to grow the women's sort of side of the club and stuff, and she's been true to her word, and like I say, long may that continue. I know we've touched on it before, and it's not for everybody. Not everybody likes it. They've come an awful long way. Look, women's football has been ridiculously neglected for so long in this country, and I mean, you've only got to go back not that long ago, since we were at school. No one played. None of them played. There were no clubs. There were no after sports team, after school teams or anything like that. So there's no route into it really, unless you wanted to travel massive distances. So to see the fact that it's now being more available to everybody is just it bodes well for the future for them. And you're absolutely right. Increase the stature of that side, and you start to get your pick of some of the better players in the region, because you've only got to look at some of the players that have gone through the south side of the river in Sunderland to see how many have gone through that club, and then have played a huge part in the Lionesses' growth in the last few years, and that's exactly what you want going forward for coming out of Newcastle.
Absolutely. And what I would say is that the ladies team will go again, the lasses will go again. And listen, if you are feeling down, ladies, in terms of that result, it could be worse. You could be Selzy FC, who got absolutely fucking annihilated by Wrexham ladies, 28-0. I mean, if that was me, I'd disconnect the controller, Mark. I'd throw a right wobbler. Would you not think? 28-0 that was.
Yeah.
Swindon, ladies. I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. Swindon. My bad.
I mean, that's about as one-sided as you get. And this goes back into the lack of investment in the past, because I mean, that's such a one-sided thing. But I don't know the difference in terms of where their stature is and stuff. So, but again, I mean, that's such a mismatch. It really is. And look, those are things. Yes, if you're the Swindon side, you celebrate the fact that you've won, but you're not celebrating as if you've won a cup final or something like that. There's a bit of there's an element that you go and you just feel sorry. You start to feel sorry for the other side, don't you? It's just, it's really unfortunate for them.
No, absolutely, mate, absolutely. But like I say, the girls will go again, and I'm not too sure Sells the FC will pick themselves up after that, mind you. Fuck me, that is a tough old game. That is, I must admit, I'd be struggling to lace my boots back up after that, ladies. I must admit. But yeah, there's been other stuff going on. Obviously, when it's international football, there's loads of other things going on. There's loads of friendlies, legend games. We'll get into that in Out of Toon a bit more. But there has been something else, Mark, as well, which we have seen pop up. Now, the Premier League are back doing their Hall of Fame inductees. Ashley Cole was inducted into the 2024 Hall of Fame. Well-deserved, brilliant left back, although he's an absolute knob. I didn't like him as a player, not just because he was horrible to watch, Cheryl, but no, because he was a knob in general. I still remember that time when the referee went to take his name and he turned his back and pointed to his number. I'd have sent them off for that. But a phenomenal left back. But that's not what we're talking about. There is a couple of Newcastle United, former Newcastle United number 9 Hall of Famers on the list, Mark. So these fantastic players that played for Newcastle United. Every time I see these people playing for us, it fucking annoys the shit out of me we didn't win something. If you look at the top 10 Premier League all-time goal scorers, I think 4 or 5 of them have played for Newcastle, and we won fuck all. But yeah, we're talking about Sir Leslie Ferdinand and obviously the goal himself, Andy Cole, King Cole. So they're both on the list of inductees, and I'm going to ask all the viewers watching, Mark, and you. So never mind who gets your vote. Who is the better number 9 for Newcastle out of those two?
Out of those two, wow.
That's a question.
It is, because, I mean, Cole was phenomenal. He was a ridiculous striker. I always had the thing with Andy Cole, I always felt he needed too many chances to score. I mean, he scored an awful lot, and to be fair, the side at that point created so many chances. He was always going to score a hatful of goals. But for me, I think Les. I think he was, certainly watching them, he was my favourite of those two to watch play. That, I mean, he had a phenomenal season, didn't he? Before he got shipped off. And he was,
thanks, Dalglish. Fucking hell.
I'm trying to remember the record. I wrote about this a while back about that season, and his scoring rate was ridiculous in the first half of that. Was it the 95-96 season? It was otherworldly, the goal return that he had at the start of that season. And yes, it tailed off a little bit. But he scored so many goals. It was ridiculous. And I think we're all as football fans deprived of seeing him, play more alongside Shearer, because that partnership was just phenomenal. I mean, that has to be one of the best strike partnerships there's been in the Premier League. It didn't last long, and it really should have lasted longer, but they were phenomenal together.
But alongside Cole and Beardsley, there's a few people saying there as well.
Yeah.
Stu Mag is saying it was a joy to watch them both. I mean, Peter Beardsley was unbelievable in that partnership that they had. Simon saying Sir Les more to his game. I do agree with that. Didn't slink off to Man United, making his mouth go about how cushy it was compared to. I do agree with that. Hyperbole agrees with George. Beardsley was amazing. Definitely helped Cole, no doubt about it. Marcus says Cole, one for his top 5. We can be better currently. We must calm our expectations. I think George is saying, yeah, Cole without Pedro, Sir Les without probably, Alan Shearer. I mean, to be fair, I kind of get myself away from Andy Cole just because of that particular time of my life. It was like my kind of starting my love affair with Newcastle United, and I just looked at him and thought, this guy's unbelievable. Like, I didn't even think about the chances that he missed. I just remember the ones he put away, and I just remember thinking, this guy, no one can touch this guy. He's incredible, in terms of goal scorer. And then when we sold him, I was devastated, like everybody else. And obviously, King Kev was on the steps, explaining that he had a plan. And then you seen fucking Paul Kitson playing there, and you thought, really, we got a plan, Kev? And then obviously, Big Les comes in and wears the number 9, and he's brilliant. I think that the thing about Les Ferdinand, if you're looking at the two of them as characters as well, Les is definitely more likable. I think he seemed to enjoy playing for Newcastle more than Andy Cole appeared to enjoy playing for Newcastle. But I think that's just because intrinsically Andy Cole was just a bit of a miserable fucker, really, wasn't he? Just never smiled a great deal. He was. He had that kind of aura,
I see
just a bit of miserable miserable bastard, whereas Sir Les, although he was a complete machine, had that smiley, persona and that charm about him. But I mean, both phenomenal footballers, Mark. They really were. I mean, that time at Newcastle, although Cole did leave in a bit of a cloud, as Simon said there before, he still remembered so fondly at Newcastle just because of what he had, 41 goals in a season. Just incredible, man. I mean, the two of them totally deserve to be in that list for being nominated. I mean, some of the players alongside him, Robbie Fowler. How good was Robbie Fowler, man? I mean, people think about England. Robbie Fowler, criminally underused by England, but he came along at a time when Shearer was there, Sheringham was there, Les Ferdinand was there, Andy Cole, Teddy Sheringham. Honestly, too many players. The Michael Owen broke through, the Wayne Rooney. Robbie Fowler was immense as well. Michael Carrick's on that list. So there's loads of players that you can vote for on the Premier League list. I'm sure many of you have voted already. But yeah, great to see two former Newcastle players there, mate. It really, really is. We've got a few more comments coming in there. Yeah, Hyperbole saying, take me back to the day standing the Gallagher before the expansion. Good times. Absolutely. Stu Max saying Mike Hooper in goal. Fucking hell. Wasn't he? Didn't he go and be a doorman after that, Mike Hooper, didn't he?
I'm sure he did. You're right. I think he might be. He didn't play an awful lot after he left, did he? And I think he did. No. I think he went and worked with doors. He's a peculiar character, Mike Hooper, wasn't he?
Bit odd. Yeah, Peter's saying, yeah, good keeper, but he did a job at the time, didn't he? To be fair. Peter Flynn saying, did you see Pedro on the rest of football? I did see clips. I'm going to watch it, Peter. I haven't watched the whole thing. What a humble guy. And you wouldn't think he was our greatest ever player. So I always say that Shearer was our greatest ever goal scorer, but for me, Mark, Peter Beardsley was the best Newcastle United football I've saw in my generation. What's your take? I mean, Gaza can be up there as well, I suppose, but we didn't see Gaza really. He was kind of just before, he was off to Spurs by the time we were probably watching football, wasn't he? Really?
Yeah, I think you go back and you watch clips of him and you just think, wow. But yeah, he was probably a little bit before we kind of. He's certainly before I can remember. My memory of Gaza is at Spurs.
Spurs in England, Rangers
taken over. Yeah, exactly, and taken over by the performance in the World Cup, by the injury in the FA Cup, the move to Italy and stuff like that. So that's my memory of him. I think Pedro was just. Yeah, I think I'd go with that. I think he's probably the best technical footballer I've seen. I just think that little shimmy is just legendary. That little wiggle he does on the edge of the box, and the couple of goals where he gets it. I know, and nobody could read it. Nobody could defend it. And the couple of times where he managed to then plant the ball into the stanchion. The old school ones where you've got the little loop on the back of the post and it gets stuck behind those. Just those little memories that come back.
Peter Beardsley's goals. When everyone's finished watching us, go and just YouTube Peter Beardsley's goals. What was the overhead kick one? Was that against Bolton or something? Or QPR? That overhead kick he hit was just fucking sensational. Just fell out on the edge of just so many good goals. It's just ridiculous. It really, really was. Paul is saying that Mike Cooper was a doorman at a pub called the Fighting Cocks in Durham. My God, I wouldn't want to go for a piss in there, Paul. I'll tell you that. Fucking hell. That is ropey ground, mate. I don't even think Super Hooper can save you in that place, mate. Jesus Christ. But yeah, great to see the lads obviously in the nomination there as well. But moving on to the next section, Mark. We've got some transfer links, I suppose we want to call it that. There's been a few players linked, more players linked to leave, and really we've obviously been panicked about the word about Bruno and Isak's apparently being watched by Arsenal and PSG and everyone else. Bruno was quite defiant going back to Dan's interview with him, which is all over X if you want to watch it. Like I say, give Dan his credit. Give him some love, like and follow him and do everything that you need to because he's a top lad. But Bruno was very adamant saying Europe is the aim for Newcastle. Europe's the aim. He was asked after the game, I think the Chronicle ran a story, Mark, to say that he said he's very happy here. His family's happy here. He said, beautiful things have come my way since I've been at Newcastle, personally and professionally. And he said, I want to be here for a lot longer to come. He said, I think he did say I may move in the future, but kind of not now is what he was trying to say. I mean, what's your gut feeling? I mean, for me, it's Europe or bust, I think, for Isak and Bruno. I think if we don't get Europe, I think the two of them could be gone. What, do you think it's as cut and dry as that, or do you think they might give us another season?
It's funny. I think last week we were talking about. I think if Europe isn't there, then those two are probably the first names that are looking to move on because they want to be there. But when you listen to Bruno talking,
money too. PSR,
yeah, maybe.
FFP, yeah.
But you listen to the way Bruno talks, and look, he's saying the right things. That there is something here, and he isn't necessarily looking for that move if Europe doesn't come. I mean, you don't want him to leave. I think you absolutely want to.
That's true, Ian. That's very true.
You're absolutely right.
The mainline press.
They will twist anything about, and they'll take the bit that he talks about. He's not going to say no to moving in the future. Going, oh yeah, Bruno wants to leave this weekend. No, look. He's always maintained his love for being here and for playing for the club, and that's not going to change in an instant. I think of the two, funnily enough, I now probably think he's more likely to stick around for an extra season than he's at. But again, for some of the others, do they look at Isak's injury record and are put off slightly by that because he has missed an awful lot of time? Would he get a little bit more protection elsewhere, and would there be more? It comes back to squad depth, and this is something that Newcastle massively lack is the fact that they can't give him a rest when absolutely needed. But I mean, you definitely do not want those two going anywhere because these are the players that you really want to build the future around. They've got so much time left to be able to play at the highest level and to get there relatively quickly if you can put the right pieces around them. I mean, I'm not talking, Champions League winners and Premier League winners within 2 seasons, but you've got plenty of time to be able to get to a point where you're challenging at that kind of level, or at least begin to start challenging at that level. So they're definitely ones that you don't want to, unless you absolutely had to, you don't want to be moving them on anywhere.
No, but it'd be interesting to see what we can do. I mean, as Simon says, he thinks Bruno's gone. Whatever, the money's needed for the FFP situation, which I can believe. It was cultivated by that contract. That release clause was come and get me as much for the club as for him. I mean, it sounds quite a cynical view, but I don't think you're too far off, Simon. I mean, the way football is now, I caught the back end of the Gallagher Shots lads talking about the FFP situation and PSR, and I think, you're totally right. You're talking about teams getting promoted into the Premier League, and we'll come on that in a minute now, soon as well, because there's some teams I'm very happy with the Premier League. But if you're a promoted side coming into the Premier League, they're basically telling you can't spend now. How are you going to stay up? And how are you going to stay in the league? How is a team like Newcastle United, with all of its wealth behind the scenes, how is it going to invest that wealth in the infrastructure of the team? How is Aston Villa going to do it? They're stopping these teams from growing, thus stopping the Premier League from being a competitive competition. They sit there and they slag off the Scottish League because it's only Rangers and Celtic. There's only been 2 or 3 teams that won the Premier League for the past 6-7 years in a row. And they're monopolising, the competition to the point where it's not a competition anymore. And you've got these massive big gaps between probably the top 3, and then the other 3, and then the rest of the league. And it's ridiculous. And it needs to stop. I mean, they need to change and adapt these PSR rules, which I think is what they're trying to do, Mark. But we shouldn't have to sell a player like Bruno Guimaraes before time just to fund the squad. We shouldn't have to do that, man. I know Villa did it with Grealish, but Villa held on to Grealish long enough till it was ready, right for Grealish and right for them. And that's good. We should be doing the same thing with Bruno. If we get another season out of Bruno, where he can play alongside Joe Linton, sort his fucking deal out in Newcastle, by the way. If you want to keep Bruno, sort Joe Linton's deal out. Give him what he wants. Christ. If you had a season with Tonali, Joe Linton, and Bruno in that midfield, that's something that we want to see, mate, isn't it? I hope he doesn't go in the summer, but I have got my doubts.
It is. I think it is a worry. I think you're absolutely bang on the money with the whole FFP PSR thing. It's an absolute mockery of business. What other business gets rid of their best assets to be able to then move on? You don't sell your best staff to be able to compete better in the marketplace. It just doesn't happen. So the fact that clubs are having to sell assets like that to be able to move on, you touched on the Grealish thing. I think Villa did a very good job with Grealish. They got him signed down to a new contract with that release clause included. He wanted it because there was always the potential that a club like City would come along and want to take him.
That's a good point by Luke as well. He was homegrown. You're right, Luke. So it's pure profit,
and it's 100 million profit on him. Bruno, if 100 million comes in, he's been here. He'll have been here 3 seasons. So that initial outlay will in the main be gone. You not have an awful lot left over in the amortization over the next couple of seasons. So it will be a huge chunk of money that would absolutely sort out the FFP or PSR standards. But it just goes back to why businesses aren't allowed to go out and spend money that they have. And we'll keep going back to it. No other business operates like this. You're not allowed to, as somebody put in the comments before, to speculate, to accumulate. But it does hamper those that are wanting to get in, become part of the Premier League setup. The likes of Forest that had to come out and spend an awful lot of money, and they've obviously dipped over their figure for a small amount of time and got hammered for it. But why should they be hampered by this whole thing? If they've got the money to spend, why stop them spending it? It baffles me. It really does. I know other leagues and other places have caps in what they can spend and stuff like that, but in the main, they're American, franchise-based leagues that have no promotion, have no relegation. They've got a captured audience, and they are limited to what they can spend overall. But it's not like they can get relegated to the championship. You're not going to see the Giants get relegated from the NFL and have to play in a D League or something like that. It baffles it. It really does, and it has to change. It has to become more suited to the modern day. It is out of date now. Whatever reason they brought it in, and it was there to protect clubs from going out of business, it doesn't work at the highest level. It really doesn't. It's such a poor thing. And when you have clubs that have reaped the benefits of not having it in the past, City, Chelsea, Manchester United, Liverpool in the past as well, they've reaped the benefits of this for so long. It's been brought in and it absolutely just protects them. And the cartel word that Marcus is using in the comments there is right. It does look like that because you just then can't challenge them without having to sell your best players to them.
Yeah, well, as Luke says there, I agree with him. I think Sean, Miggy, Wilson are gone. And then you got the Adidas money, the selling money, the Champions League money. So maybe we don't have to sell our big players. But yeah, Marcus is bang on it. It is definitely a cartel. I think more people are making noise about it now to the point where, I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny under it. But Ty says we should be all right because Australian Spurs money will sort us out. Weirdest game ever. I really don't get that game at all. Won't spend too much time on that. So moving on to players coming in, Mark, then. There was a player coming in he's been linked perpetually for ages. There's 2 ways to look at this. Well, there's 2 players linked, actually. There's 2 ways to look at this. So you can say they're both, decent players, Premier League experience, good age. Would they really bring much to the starting 11? Not sure. Would they bring much to the squad? Maybe. So Lloyd Kelly is the first one from Bournemouth, who's a player who's been linked perpetually every single day, since, I think his contract started to run down. But there's a real big problem with Lloyd Kelly and copy and paste Emile Smith-Rowe from Arsenal, who is a talented lad. There's no doubt about it. But the 2 of them, Mark, are just always fucking knackered, aren't they? And we don't need any more A&E patients in this fucking hospital of a club that we've got. And to the possibility of having them 2 come into the squad and fill up more room in the treatment space just scares the shit out of me. It really does, when there's players you can get with better injury records.
Well, I think I sent a message to you the other day about how when you're looking at Lloyd Kelly, and look, I think he's a really, really good footballer.
He's a decent player, yeah.
He would make a good squad player, absolutely. But his injury record is horrific.
That's woeful, man.
He's missed 18 games, at least 18 games, the last 2 seasons. It's just he fits the bill, doesn't he?
He does at the minute, which is why we shouldn't go anywhere near him.
And you look at those, and there's an awful lot of the big one. There looks to be an ankle issue there. There's continual ankle problems that have kept him out. Various sort of muscle injuries and stuff. So the big ones have been certainly over the last couple of years have been sort of his hip one, the current one, but they're all sort of muscle injuries and stuff like that, and that does worry me because that, as we've seen with the likes of Wilson and Isak, and you're going to throw a player into this Eddie Howe way of playing, and does he just continually break down and miss more and more games because of the higher intensity football that Eddie Howe wants to play at? I think he'd be a great addition squad-wise, but the injury concern does worry me. Smith Rowe is of similar vein. I think he's been massively underused. I think again by Arsenal, he was shown real promise, but injuries have hampered him.
I'm just looking there at him. Yeah, 121 days groin surgery, 127 days groin injury, 91 days hamstring injury. It's a reoccurring trend, isn't it? As good of a player as he is, he's still quite a young player as well, isn't he? In all fairness, he's got a lot of years ahead of him. He's 23 years old, but it seems to be a copy and paste Jack Wilshere situation. With Emile Smith Rowe, isn't it? A talented player who just can't stay fit. Do we really want a player like that?
It's a really difficult, and especially when you've spent much of the season with Barnes out injured, with Gordon's picked up knocks up, Murphy's been injured, Miggy's been wildly out of form. You don't want another player to come in and then sit in the treatment room. You have to probably be looking elsewhere at those. But I think that the name that I've seen in there that I like the look of massively is Sesko.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
And I think that he's definitely one to look at. Look, he's such a good player, and I think there's a relatively reasonable release clause in his contract as well. So, different player obviously in terms of the positions, but it's a position of need for Newcastle. Certainly another striker. I think he would do really well. Luke, I think
great three choices.
Great, but Neto again, injury problems, and as great as he is, he gets back and he gets injured again, and he'll have that run of 5 or 10 games, and then he'll pick up another knock. And I think Newcastle have to be looking. Yes, you're going to have to take so many risks on some players, but he's definitely one that probably misses more games than he probably plays.
But can you say Minter comes back in pre-season and looks brilliant, and you can alternate between Neto and Minter and give Neto those rests between games, maybe not run him so hard, give him time to recover properly. If they build up a proper plan for him, I appreciate I'm talking about Eddie Howe here that runs players into the ground to the point where they have no ligaments left, or have to have shots on their ankle to just walk to the training pitch, But surely, what might be in our favour for Neto is if big clubs. I say we are a big club, but you know who I mean, the greedy six.
Yeah,
if the greedy six are put off Neto because of those injury risks, like an Isak, do we manage to get a player of real quality there? Can we manage his fitness a bit like we were doing with Wilson for a time? Manage his fitness, get him to a point where you might not play every single game, but you have him in, you have him out, you get Minter in there, you change it up a little bit. Those kind of things. If we can get somebody like a Neto away from the greedy six, mate, that's a brilliant signing for us, because he's light years ahead of what we've got on that right hand side. And if Minter comes back in, which I think he will pre-season, and look better than Murphy and Almiron, then I think we'll sell Almiron, keep Murphy as cover, have Minter there, and then maybe do get a big name right winger in.
Yeah, I think Minter showed on loan this season that he's probably looking at a step up. Next season, I think Murphy does a very good job when he comes in. So that definitely three you could then have on that right hand side. Miggy at this point would be profit. If you can get a decent amount of money for him in the summer, then you wish him well, and you move him on, and you go on to bigger and better things, because we found his level. We know he's reverted to type again this season.
Way down there.
In the effort. He's
way down there.
But you got brilliance out of him at times last season. But that was always the worry that he would revert back, and I think his time to move has come, that they have to go on to better things. So yeah, one bigger name on that right hand side to go along with the others. But equally, do you shift Gordon over and play Barnes when he's fit? Do you keep those two playing as a tandem? He's not got a particularly poor injury record, and this season seems to be a bit of a freak. But they can say that for an awful lot of players. It just seems to be an awful injury thing going on. I mean, it's been just, and this is why I think Eddie Howe gets a little bit of time. One is the fact that the injury record has been so poor, and the fact that the club are hampered by FFP and PSR, and the fact that they can't just go out and spend what they want to.
There is that, absolutely is that. But yeah, I mean, for me, I know I've spoke about him at length on the channel. I'd go for Chiesa. I think you get Chiesa for about 30 million quid less than Neto. I don't think he's as injury prone. I know he's a big game player, big game experience. I mean, obviously, if you don't have European football, it might be a challenge to get him. But I think it would help Tonali as well. I think having another Italian player there in amongst the squad. But that aside, Chiesa is just a fantastic footballer. And a match winner, someone who can get the ball, do three players and smash it in the top corner, the kind of player that we need. And if you've got Minter as his understudy to learn off of him, even better, in my opinion. So there's so many good players out there the club could still look at and buy within the realms of the FFP, as you say, with the amortization, splitting it over, 3 to 5 years, whatever it may be. There's a lot of good players there that we can look at, but we've got to get rid of some of these players that just aren't good enough anymore. We put faith in them this season after what they did last season. And a lot of people might say that was right to do, but they've shown they're nowhere near the level of a top 4 Premier League side who's got Champions League football. They're just not good enough, and you've got younger players coming through that need to be given an opportunity to show that they can do a better job than what those players can. I'm talking about Hall and Byrne. I'm talking about Miley and Longstaff. I think Sean's a really honest, hard-working player, but he's got a level, and I think Miley has higher potential than Sean. Even now at 17, if you put them two on the park together, I think Miley outshines Longstaff at the minute. I know he's a different type of player in terms of how he uses the ball and stuff like that, but, Miley's only going to get better and better and better. I'm not sure Sean's got many more levels than what he's got right now, Mark. So there is some big decisions to make for this manager in the summer, because he's the one who I wouldn't say protects the players, but he's the one who rewards that loyalty back to the players and rewards those efforts that they put in last season. But I do think Eddie Howe's heart has overruled his head last summer with a few players, Almiron being one, Wilson arguably being another one. You could have sold Wilson for big money and bought in another replacement. You know what I mean? A younger, fitter, hungrier number 9. And you could have banked some good money off Callum Wilson. But it's all done and dusted now, mate. But we need to make smarter decisions in the transfer window. And that moves us on to some news you had about a potential replacement for Dan Ashworth, mate.
Yeah, so this was again, it popped up from, was it? I think I saw it from the Chronicle, but I picked up the tweet from, was it NUFC Gallagher, giving them the shout because it came from this. So Rui Pedro Braz from Benfica, who has an interesting way into football because he worked as a TV analyst, football analyst, before he got the gig there, and he's. It's a weird league, Portugal, as well, because again you're talking about big fish in a relatively small pond, but Benfica tend to find really, really good players to bring in, especially young players, and then they move them on. I mean, his record has been great in terms of being able to find buyers for players to move on for some really big money. I mean, he's obviously part in the negotiations for selling Enzo Fernandez and Darwin Núñez for a combined 190 odd million. So there's something about him in that regard. I think the report was that he'd been interviewed for the job, and potentially that might be the move that Newcastle make once the Dan Ashworth situation is completed. Roll on Manchester United paying 20 million for it to go off garden leave and go and work for them, because as much money as you can get out of them is just perfect. And just to move him on now, it's just you want this resolved quickly. You want, especially with you've only got a couple of months now until the summer transfer window, so you need that key part of the transfer network resolved before that time. You don't want to be going into the summer without a proper plan in place and the right people to start that scouting, that negotiating of players that you want to go and sign, potentially free transfers as well, that you can start to go and negotiate with now if they're based overseas. So it is definitely one to look at. There were a couple of comments that I did pick up from one of the reports about him that he had started to have a little bit of questions around his competence, and that does, I guess, it raised an alarm bell. But these are sort of comments that from actually Benfica president, and this actually was in the Chronicle one, if you can get past the adverts that are on the page, where he's commented saying, "I'm starting to question whether Rui Pedro Braz has the confidence for where he is. That certainty and quality that was in our scouting team seems to have disappeared." That doesn't sort of sound very good when you start to look at it. But look, it's what he can bring to the table. Can he start to find those exceptional young players from the likes of South America and from Europe and bring them in? And this is part of what Newcastle have lacked for so long, being able to target those areas and to bring these players. And if you're getting a good production line, a little bit like what I guess was expected out of Ashworth and the Brighton model, then hopefully he's the answer. But I don't know. I don't know enough about him to be able to say, look, he sounds perfect for the job. He seems to have done a relatively decent job, but like I say, I don't know enough about him to be able to go, well, yes, he's going to be the next coming. He's going to be the perfect one. But he certainly has a bit of a reputation about him to, being able to bring players in and move players on and being able to negotiate well as well. You're on mute, Chris.
I clicked the wrong button. That's right. So just a little bit on him in a minute in terms of his demand, so to speak. But just before we do, there's some love for Whitley Bay in the comments. We've got to give this a shout out.
I love it.
As Mark and I cut our teeth in Whitley Bay, as Marcus has hit it off, and then George is saying Whitley Bay for a pint and a fight, a great British night. Certainly was when we worked there, mate. It's a ghost town now of old folks' homes and charity shops, really. But yes, Whitley Bay, what a place to be it was when we were younger, working in bars. But going back to this director of football, I don't believe for 1 second these stories that his preferred manager to work with is Roberto Mancini. I think it's lazy journalism. Like Mancini's a Saudi Arabian manager now. Utter bullshit. I can't imagine an incoming director of football is going to tell the owners, well, I'll take the job only if I can work with that manager. I think it's utter nonsense. The Newcastle United director of football job will pay well. It's an exciting project. Whatever's going to happen with PSR and FFP and stuff like that, you could literally be sitting on a pot of gold, technically, in terms of your resource and everything else. He's not going to come in there swinging his dick left to right saying he wants Roberto Mancini. That's bullshit. And anyone who swallows that, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see if he does come in. Like you say, Mark, he has had some pedigree previously. Thanks to stupid Premier League clubs wanting to spend over the odds for these Benfica players, but generally it'd be nice to see who we can unearth, and we do need that position filled probably a little bit sooner than later. But just before we move on to Out of Toon, there is one little thing that we have to do, and Mark is going to roll his prize draw for you because it's member giveaway time. Mark has the member giveaway lined up in the background. As you remember, we talked about this last week, which I do think we have the picky still, Mark, don't we?
We did. I left it in there. So what I did do, because I was aimed to try and do this during last week, but didn't get around. So I've ended everybody that was a member at the time last week. So there are 43 names in the hat at that particular point. We will do other member giveaways as we go as well, and we are nearing into the 7,000 subscribers as well, where there'll be another one, which will be for everybody to enter at that point. So we will get this done. I will draw it. Bear with me 1 second. I will just bring up my
bring up your little goodies there, your little goodies in the background.
I'm just making sure.
Better be quick before everyone goes to bed, mate. We've only got one category left to go.
Let's not go. Let's too long. So add to stage. Don't go to bed, there we go.
Don't go to bed yet. In case you win.
So everybody
wants the mugs.
So
you get the mug and all the goodies. Hyperbole. It's a pack.
Everybody's name is
everybody's in the list. Everyone's in the list. Come on.
Are we ready? Can I have a drum roll?
Drum roll. There you go.
There you go. John. That now is
John. John, fucking hell, that does narrow it down. Who is John?
Well, it's John in the list. I'll find John in the list. If you are the John that is, you do scroll on our members list, so I have to go back in and have a look. But it is just listed as John on the
John.
On the page.
Just John.
I will double check what the actual name of the member is in the background. That's perfect.
Some sad people in the comments here. Ty is not happy. Hyperbole says it's a fix. I don't run this. Blame the game show host over there. Ian's not happy. Even to the point he's put FFD. I don't know what it is. Luke says he's John.
I'm John.
So, yeah,
I love it.
I'm John. I'm John. Exactly. We will find John. Well, congratulations, John, on your little member giveaway prize. But don't worry. Marcus is saying wear a rubber. I'm not sure what that means, mate, but that's good advice. Very good advice. George says he's John, and so is his wife. And Stu Mag says John Smith. Absolutely, yeah. So now we'll get that. We'll get that over to John. So that John may be.
The YouTube name for John is @360TXJ.
Oh, well, there you go.
@360TXJ. Drop us a message through, and we will. We'll get that sorted out for you.
We will get that. We will get that all sorted for you. Don't worry, everybody. There will be more member giveaways coming soon. We've got a couple of really good things to give away. We've got 7,000 subscriber prize, which everyone can get a chance to win. We have got a couple of really good signed prints as well, which we're going to give away. Sorry, Ian saying John Barnes. He's got to hold and give and do it at the right time, Ian. He's got to do that. He's got to do it. But no, we will get that over to John. So absolutely brilliant. Right, so we'll go into the last category then of the night, Mark, which is Out of Toon, where we talk about things non-Newcastle United related. And obviously been international football, there has been quite a lot of stuff going on in the background. And I think, in terms of starting somewhere nice, I suppose. So people might have seen this story a few weeks back. We talked about it on the channel. It was the sad news that Sven-Goran Eriksson had said he had terminal cancer, and I think he said he'd be lucky if he had a year left to live, I think. And then all the outpouring of emotion for Sven came out of football. And then obviously he'd mentioned that his dream was to manage Liverpool, I think. One last time where he was good, he couldn't manage Liverpool. So fair play to Liverpool. They reached out and they said there was a Legends game coming on, and they said to Sven, do you want to manage the team? And that's exactly what happened at the weekend there. The Liverpool Legends, Steven Gerrard was there, Fernando Torres was there, and Sven-Goran Eriksson got an unbelievable reception, Mark, didn't he? We've had a love-hate relationship with Liverpool fans on this channel, but I've got to give it to them because the cop was sensational with Sven. I think even old Turkey Teeth himself was very good as well. Jurgen Klopp, and I just think it was such a lovely thing for Sven-Goran Eriksson to go through. He obviously had a lovely fitting tribute video, from his former England players as well, until Michael Owen decided to ruin it just by being the most boring, shittest man in the world. But it was still a lovely message. But it was very nice, though, wasn't it, for Sven, mate? It was very heartwarming, wasn't it?
It's not often that there are very
sorry, I've just seen Luke's comment there. I'm really sorry, but that's a sensational comment, Luke. It's not too low at all, mate. No,
picky moments, Luke. Really.
Wow.
Look, there are very few moments in football that make you choked. and really that emotion comes out, and you do. I mean, how many times have we talk about Bobby on here, and every time we talk about Boy Robson, and you start to think of memories of things, but seeing that for Sven, and the fact that he has been he is really ill, and just it was wonderful to see. Football doesn't always. I put this message out on X, and football doesn't always get it right. They absolutely got it right, and it was lovely. And the messages from the players I thought were really good. And you're right. I mean, Michael Owen can ball the pants off anybody, but it was. Yeah, it was really touching and really, really, really good from Liverpool to see. And we do give them some stick, and we don't particularly like them, but they got this one bang on.
They did. No, it was brilliant to see. And I tell you what, well, Gerrard and Torres still look quite tidy in terms of their ability to get around the pitch. And Torres scored a good goal as well, didn't he? So it was decent to see. I think Liverpool fans were getting quite nostalgic watching these legends of yesteryear kind of running around. Just some comments there about Sven. Ian said he remembers when we beat England, Sven walked around the pitch and applauded Northern Ireland fans, gracious in defeat. We applauded them back. Yeah, there's a lot of love for Sven Goran Eriksson, I think. When it all happened, and hopefully he can, have a decent quality of life, and moving forward, until obviously whenever that sad day comes, hopefully later than sooner for Sven. Ty said he's got to go. Yeah, good to see you, Ty. Thanks for tuning in.
Joining
all the best. So sticking with Liverpool, I suppose. Now, there is some quite hot takes in football, isn't it? At times, we once knew a lad who said Wayne Rooney was a flash in a pan. That's one of the famous lines. He'd be another Danny Cadamarteri.
That's the line.
Yeah, that's the line. That's the line. There's been a lot of hot takes, isn't there? In terms of what was the other one? Was it Rory Jennings that said Haaland won't score 50 goals in the Premier League or something? He won't score 20 goals in the Premier League. So there's been quite a few hot takes. Now, I'm not sure there's been more hotter takes than this one by Yakubu. Yes, you remember Yakubu, former Everton striker. Feed the yak and he will score. I'm not sure what the fuck the yak's been eating or sniffing to come up with this statement, because this is mental. So he said, this is about Mo Salah. He said, Mo Salah is not world class, in my opinion. He's not good with the ball, and the majority of his goals are lucky goals, apparently. Wish I was that lucky. You can't say Mohamed Salah is the greatest African player playing in the Premier League. The greatest African players in the Premier League are Okocha, you mean JJ Okocha, Didier Drogba, don't disagree with that one. Kanu, Yaya Toure, okay, Adebayor, and Sadio Mane. Now, I'm not sure whether Mo Salah owes Yakubu a fiver or something, Mark, but that is the hottest take I think I've heard in 2024 so far.
He's definitely stiffed him at some point. That sounds wrong. He's definitely stiffed him at some point for something. But I mean,
he's been in the two, says Ian. Yeah.
My initial reaction to that was, I mean, lucky. Has he watched Mo Salah over recent seasons? I mean,
I'm not sure he
regularly score. What is it? Was it his 5th season or something in a row with scoring 20 goals or something? The 7th season, or I can't remember what the record was.
Is he getting them mixed up with like someone like So Mala or something like that? Is he got them mixed up with somebody? Because
that's an unbelievable take. It's just, yeah. I mean, yeah. I wouldn't have referred to Yakubu as Yakubu from. It was the Canadian guy. There's a quiz show, and I can't remember its name, on 5 Live on a Saturday morning at 11, and they have a Canadian guy that's on there, and he used to call him Yakubu instead of Yakubu, and I just think that fits right now, because it's an awful take, awful.
Yeah. Paul says you forgot about Shola. Yes, Nigerian's greatest striker. Yes, Shola Ameobi. But I mean, Adebayor, what the fuck is he talking about? Adebayor over Mo Salah.
He's good, but I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
There needs to be a hint of bitterness in this, I think.
I think just a little bit, yeah. Yeah, Stu's probably right. He posted while in the Bulldog coffee shop in Amsterdam. I think I've been to that one, mate, to be fair. But yeah, it was the weirdest, hottest take I've ever heard in my life. And I don't think many football fans will be giving that any real credence, in all fairness. But yeah, very weird one. Very, very weird one by Yakubu. Now, we did talk about this on last What's Gannin On. This is the sequel. So if anybody didn't know, Fenerbahce had a massive big dust-up fight. Was it Trabzonspor? Was it Mark? Was that who they were playing? Trabzonspor. They had this massive big brawl. Batshuayi thought he was Shawn Michaels, trying to do sweet chin music for a minute or something like that. I don't know what he was doing. But so this is the follow-up. So this is Fenerbahce moaning, as you can see. Now, Fenerbahce are livid, apparently, Mark, livid. And they're on the hunt for a new league to play in because apparently they feel so hard done by the Turkish FA because they've come down hard on them for not controlling the players. And this isn't the first time Fenerbahce have got in trouble. And they feel so hard done by it. And they think the repeated times that they've offended and been dealt such a shit hand by the Turkish FA, they're now talking about refusing to play the remaining fixtures. Therefore, they'll be relegated. And they said, well, you can relegate us because we're just going to go play somewhere else. I'm not really sure you're allowed to do that, mate, are you? Has Fenerbahce lost the plot here?
Where are they going to play? I mean, then, yeah, that's just a question for them. But I do think, thank you, Marcus. That's really nice of you.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate that, bro.
I do think they've probably been harshly treated on this occasion, and they suggest that there have been other issues with them in the past where, yeah, that might be the one.
Maybe they are going to the Super League. Yeah, absolutely.
But look, when you've got opposition fans that come on to the field and attack your players, and especially when, and one of the stills that we had last season, that was something on the floor that looked potentially dangerous. I don't know exactly what it was, but it didn't look particularly nice.
It was knives involved and everything, man.
I want my players protecting themselves, and if they want to do a Chuck Norris roundhouse kick to the head, then just let them get on with it. Because at the end of the day, they have to protect themselves, and you can't just allow fans to come on and attack players. And the book needs to be thrown at Trabzonspor for their fans' behaviour, not at Fenerbahce for the way that their players reacted. I think their reaction was actually rather tame.
Yeah, to be fair, you're right. And well said, Ian. Fuck cancer indeed.
Yes, as
somebody who's lost a loved one to it, it can get in the fucking bin. Long may we have a cure for that bastard in our lifetime, guys. Let's hope for it. But yeah, it's a horrible, horrible disease. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the Fenerbahce thing is just weird, really. I think that J7's probably right. I think the Super League is probably calling for them. They are a big club. They have got a big name and a big pedigree. Maybe they'll be one of the first ones to join. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But I'm not entirely sure. This might just be them, drawing lines with the Turkish FA to see whether they can get less of a punishment than what they're probably going to get by crying out and stuff like that as well. Well, we've got a new member as well. They've got Dave Bowman. Good to see you, Dave. Thank you so much.
Squad. Thank you.
Mate. Welcome to the squad, mate. Welcome to the squad. Really appreciate that, mate. Yeah, I agree with you, Ian. Turkey is mad. Remember Souness? Yeah, putting the flag in the centre circle. I remember that. What a fucking maniac he was. What was it Dean Saunders said? I think, didn't Les Ferdinand went on loan to Besiktas, didn't he? I think it was.
Yeah.
When he was a QPR. But Dean Saunders said something about they used to slaughter a goat and put blood in their boots or something like that in the dressing room. I remember hearing him telling that story on TalkSport. I quite like Dean Saunders, actually. He seems like quite a good crack. I think he'd be quite a good after dinner speaker, to be fair. His Brian Clough stories are tremendous, as all Brian Clough stories are. But yeah, I do remember him saying that. Actually, Turkey is just mad to play football in, but you can't go around and start having massive brawls in the middle of the pitch. Just, it's not ice hockey. You can't do that. You know what I mean?
Maybe we're missing a trick. Maybe Bowie or Dyer had the right idea all along.
I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, we can put them two up as the pinnacle of. We can't put them two up as the pinnacle of role models, mate. That's a great way to end the show. Yes, no, don't do what Bowie and Dyer do, kids. If you're still up at this time of night watching, but thank you so much to everybody who's joined us in the comments tonight. It always helps the episode flow. We always appreciate the back and forth. New members as well. Thank you so much. Obviously, the membership's gifted by Hyperbole. Really nice of you as well. It's not a Newcastle United football week, but we're trying to bring as much content as possible. So we've had some great interactions with you, some new subscribers on the back, a couple of rant videos as well. We'll be back with some more content very soon. Obviously, we'll be looking at the squad ahead of the West Ham game as well coming up once the international break is over. I'm sure there'll be some of the breaking news coming in. There was actually just one thing, Mark, before we go. Yes, there was one more thing.
This is normally me that does this. So
it is normally you that drags it back, but I've nearly forgotten now because I was whinging about Fenerbahce so much. So Leicester City have been punished by the Premier League for breaching PSR and FFP, even though they're not in the fucking Premier League anymore. They might be coming up very, very soon. And Leicester City have filed a counter suit to sue the Premier League, I think, as well. How is this one going to end, do you think, between them two then? It's a weird turn up for the books, isn't it?
God knows. This is the day that Forest have filed their appeal against their 4-point deduction as well. So look, this is going to roll on and on and on. And we're still waiting for what might happen with City in their 116 different charges. The potential for Chelsea to get hit. Villa were talked about with being another one that maybe would breach their level too. So I think this is just going to go on and on and on. And I mean, you kind of feel for Leicester because, in a sense, you go from that brilliant season of winning the league to ultimately not having enough money to keep the caliber of players there.
They sold all the best players. For big money. Yeah. Well. They did what you're supposed to do according to the Premier League.
And still will fall foul of it. And look, you can see a scenario where they get promoted and have an immediate 6-point deduction for this, and it would just I don't know. I missed that comment before. The Premier League is a mess. It absolutely is. At the moment.
It is. Yeah, it was Ian that said it. Yeah, Premier League is a mess.
Yeah,
but I think. Yeah, the comments are right. I can see loads of lawsuits coming because if Leicester file a lawsuit, if they win that lawsuit, everyone will just come out of the football world and start suing the Premier League. That's not what they want. They're going to have to fix this problem. And the problem is they've got people who are trying to make money, copious amounts of money, and protect a small cartel of clubs, and they're not thinking straight. And these clubs are going to sue them because they will be able to buy, hire really good lawyers to take these things to task. We will definitely be trying to look at this as much as we can. We spoke about bringing on a financial expert that we've had on previously. He was a great guy as well. I know we tried last time, it didn't quite work. So we'll maybe do that again. Certainly as we look towards what Newcastle can and can't do in the transfer window when the season ends. But that is definitely us done, guys. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I'll just get the last one out there. We will be back, as we say, for the lead up to the West Ham game, obviously with the usual previews, and then we'll have the match review as well. So keep it evermore, guys. Smash that button, subscribe if you can, recommend us to family and friends. Like the video. If you want to be a member, there's an option down there for you too. It's a goodbye from me and Debbie McGee over there with his magic prize draw. Have a cracking evening, everybody, and we'll see you later.
Take care, guys. See you later.
Cheers.